moving forward, after the diode, so diode, if you remember, as per our basic classification, diode was an uncontrolled device. Now we are moving to a device which is called semi-controlled. The reason will be clear pretty soon. So now we'll be studying this device thyristor. Sometimes it is also known as silicon controlled rectifier, SCR. So we'll study its basic construction, switching characteristics, etc. So the way thyristors are designed is, it is a 4-layer device, and you can see it's a lightly doped region which you call as a drift region. Basically, the junction here and the junction here are mainly responsible for blocking the higher voltage. So from the diode you must have got this, why this is, because with the lightly doped region, your width of the depletion zone when it is reverse bias, it is more, its resistance is also more, and that is how it can block more voltage. And this is the symbol that you have to remember. It's anode, cathode, and there is a third terminal which is gate. So with respect to diode, this is the only change in the symbol, that you have a third terminal. So between gate and cathode, you connect a drive circuit to send suitable amount of gate current to turn the device on. So between gate and cathode, you will be connecting some external circuits to drive this thyristor to on. But you cannot drive the thyristor directly to off, right? You can control it on time, which we'll discuss sometime later. And if you look at this structure, this is basically this P, N and P. So it itself is a BJT, and again there is a N, P, N. So this also forms a transistor. So and you can suitably replace this model by 2 transistors connected in this fashion. This is also an interesting circuit to learn. But anyway, we are not going into details of that. So a thyristor can be modeled as 2 transistors, one NPN, one PNP, connected in this particular fashion. And a thyristor cannot conduct current in reverse direction. It can conduct current only in forward direction. And it can block voltage in the reverse direction. So which means when the device is off, you can apply voltage in this direction, which is reverse direction for it, and it can block that voltage. And when you are not turning on the device, you have not given any gate pulse or gate current, then also in the forward direction it can block voltage. So this is that zone. So it can block forward voltage, but when you give the gate pulses, then the device starts conducting and it shifts to this zone. So the current again depends on the circuit parameters. And for these 4 different layers, you can have a look at their doping density. So this is of particular interest to us. Again, we are getting a drift region which is having slightly higher width, as well as its doping density is also low. Now from the circuit perspective, let's say you have not given any gate signal. So if you apply positive voltage to the anode and negative voltage to the cathode, so this is the condition when VAK is greater than 0. And let's say the device is not conducting because you have not given any gate pulse. So this is known as forward blocking mode. And J1 and J3, they are forward bias, but J2 is reverse bias. Right? This is N and this side is P. Actually blocking your that forward voltage because it's the reverse bias junction. When VAK is less than 0, so this is minus, this is plus. So then this is reverse bias, this is forward bias, this is reverse bias. Okay, but the junction J1 actually blocks the majority of the reverse voltage because these 2 are heavily doped. So their depletion width is not higher. So, but this depletion width will be more as compared to the J3. So this will be actually blocking majority of your reverse voltage. And you have to understand this graph. So I'll go slowly here. So during the reverse bias condition, it is close to similar to your diode, so nothing new there. After certain time, there will be avalanche breakdown and your thyristor will get damaged. So you always like to ensure your circuit operation during reverse mode to be less than this voltage coming across your thyristor. Now let's say you have not given any gate current, so gate terminal is open. So and you are increasing your VAK from 0. So if you do that till this zone, during this zone, your device is actually not conducting. Very low amount of current will flow. It's negligible. And if you keep on increasing your voltage, a voltage will come. This VBO, which is breakover voltage. After that time, that reverse bias junction J2 will break down, and the thyristor operation will shift to this, and then actually thyristor will get turned on. So I repeat, without the gate pulse, thyristor can be turned on if you apply a voltage across its anode cathode terminal equal or greater than this VBO. So if you keep on increasing VAK, once it reaches VBO, this reverse junction will break down and the device will start conducting. But of course, this voltage is pretty high. And if you keep on giving some gate current, let's say you're giving say some 2 ampere, just for number, IG2 could be say 4 ampere. So once you give this gate current, then this breakdown will take place at much lesser voltage. So if you want the device to quickly turn on with less anode cathode voltage, you have to give IG as high as possible. So this device characteristics, once that junction breaks down, it starts conducting. Okay, so a device is said to be turned on properly once its current is higher than this latching current. So this IL is the latching current. So once your device develops a current higher than latching current, then you are saying that device is actually turned on. So you can see this voltage across it is also pretty low, and the amount of current will depend again on the circuit parameter. Now once the device is turned on, even if you withdraw the gate pulse, so IG, even if you make 0 or negative, generally withdrawn, so then also the device won't turn on because the junction is already broken and a lot of charge carriers are freely moving inside your device. So only way to turn off the device now is when you apply a reverse voltage across the device, and due to circuit parameter condition, once your device current starts falling and it reaches a value known as holding current. So if your current through the thyristor due to circuit behavior, external circuit operation, if it drops below holding current, then your thyristor will again turn off. Now to turn on again, you have to give the gate pulse. So once the thyristor turns on, to turn it off, gate has no role to play. Only when due to external influence of the circuit behavior, we'll see in our form shortly. Once the actual thyristor current falls below this holding current, so remember, I holding current is less than I latching current, that we have seen in the graph also, right? Sometimes due to the circuit behavior itself, this situation comes. Sometimes you turn on some other devices to make sure that the current is bypassed through those devices and making current through the thyristor 0. And another alternate solution is that you use a modified thyristor kind of architecture known as gate turn off thyristor. So please note the difference in their symbol. So gate turn off thyristor is a thyristor which you can turn on and off using the gate terminal. So if you provide positive gate current, it will turn on. If you provide negative gate current, it will turn off. Now quickly to summarize, generally in thyristor, two conditions must be satisfied if you want to turn on. One is that the device is to be in the forward bias zone. So, and second, any one of the second condition you need to satisfy. One is that you apply anode cathode voltage higher than its breakover voltage. So this is option number one from the second category. Then what you have to do is, or another option is that you apply positive gate current of suitable magnitude for a duration till IA becomes higher than IL etching. So if you just give a gate current of very short pulse, right, and withdraw it, so by that time your actual current may not have reached IL etching. So then the device is not going to turn on. So you have to give your gate pulse or gate current for sufficiently long duration so that thyristor current is more than the latching current, more or equal to the latching current. Sometimes if you apply large dVdt, if you apply, of course it's a forward direction, if you apply high dV for a very short duration, so dVdt is high, then also the device can be turned on. Another interesting way to turn on is by guiding some light through optical fiber in particular sensitive zone of thyristor. So this is a specially designed thyristor, is not regular thyristor. So you can have some light flowing through a particular sensitive zone, and that can actually create, it can break your covalent bonds, and that create free charge carrier to continue its current conduction. And another option is that you create high junction temperature, because again, if your junction temperature is high, it will break the covalent bond and it will free up some your charge carriers. Okay, these two are self-explanatory. And this particular point you have to remember when you apply your thyristor for the application like AC to DC converter or the rectifier. So typically, if you remember, half bridge rectifier circuit. So if you use a diode, then your output voltage would have been something like this, then 0, then again like this. But using thyristor, you can delay the turn on. So once you give this gate current, then only so this is the forward bias condition for the thyristor. So once you give, so during this zone, gate current was not given, thyristor was not turned on. So here thyristor is turned on, and as thyristor is turned on, you will have some current flow in the circuit. Now, when by default the current is going to 0 here, right? Because of this AC behavior of the circuit, current is going to 0. That is how actually your thyristor is going to turn off automatically. You need not give any gate pulse in negative or so gate has no role. Current by default is going to 0. So once it falls below that holding current, the thyristor will automatically get turned off. During this turn off condition, actually this kind of phenomena, which is similar to your the diode behavior, will come. And one thing you need to note down is that, so during this zone, before this your device was forward bias, and during this zone it is actually getting turned off. So there is a time known as TQ, which is also available in the datasheet. So during this zone, the thyristor must be in reverse bias condition, and any thyristor, it takes this time to regain its forward voltage capability again. So let's say your device is getting turned off here. You have given the turn off command, or from the circuit it is going the turn off zone. So to properly turn off, again you have to sweep out all those charge carrier from the drift region, and you have to form the depletion region. So it takes some time. So during that time, if you again apply forward bias voltage due to circuit operation or by mistake, the device will turn on again. It is not going to turn off. So you must make sure that in your circuit, this TQ amount of time should be passed before you again apply forward voltage. Otherwise, even though you want your device to turn off, it will turn on again. So all this is given in a detailed manner. So this application in a thyristor, when Professor Souvik Chattopadhyay will be discussing these things in more detail. In fact, this thyristor will be covered again there in more details because some of its characteristics are very important there. So it will be repeated again most of the part. So there you will get this in a more detail. You have to remember a term called commutation failure. Yeah. So just summary is that, remember, once you want to turn off a device and it reaches this stage when the current has become zero, after that there exists a time TQ till which the device must be reverse bias. You should not apply forward bias again. Okay. So just, yeah, I think this will be discussed again. So let me not spend too much time on this. And this is also sometimes asked in the interview, and what is the main difference between what are the different types of thyristors. So remember that converter grade thyristor and inverter grade thyristors are most commonly used in our power electronic converter. And of course, the third category is the light activated thyristor, which I just told you. So converter grade thyristors are generally slow in nature. So you apply them in line frequency application, 50 to 60 Hertz. And if you want a bit faster thyristor, then you go with inverter grade thyristor, where which can turn off faster as compared to the converter grade. But of course, this time is typically much higher than the time required for MOSFET or IGBT to turn on and off. Important parameter again is similar to your diode case, so I'm not going into that again because most of them are same, so you can go through them. The snubber circuit we'll discuss in some other class, how to select these values. And similar to the diode, again you have to go through the data sheet. You have to see this I square T rating. You have to see this TQ. What is how much current the device can take, right? What is this voltage and current rating? Before you apply them to a particular circuit, you have to check their suitability. So all those things, please go through the data sheet, check from there. But I repeat again, for thyristor, this characteristic should be pretty clear to you. You understand this. And another important thing you have to realize is that you can turn on the device by providing suitable gate current. Generally, we don't use this other option. We generally use this one. So when the device is forward bias, we apply suitable gate current from gate drive circuit to turn the device on when we require. And generally, they get turned off when their current goes to below this holding current. Sometimes some external circuit is used to forcefully reduce that thyristor current to zero. So that is known as commutation circuits, which is required when you use thyristors in application like DC-DC converter or inverter. For AC to DC converter, this is sufficient because their current automatically goes to zero, and that is how thyristor automatically turns off, right? You need not any external arrangement to turn it off. But in DC-DC converter, current does not go to zero by default, so you have to use some external means to forcefully turn off the thyristor. And that is why nowadays in most of the DC-DC converter, thyristor is not a popular choice because you need additional commutation circuit.